On Dub Zone, Reds keeper Claudia Jenkins joins us to talk all things Adelaide after they knocked off the Knicks. City equals the greatest ever undefeated streak in Ninja A-League history, and an absolute belter from Sydney's captain rocks the Roar at Leichhardt. Hello and welcome to Dub Zone. I'm Amy Duggan. Great to have you with us and to be joined by A-League's commentator Teo Pellizzeri and two-time Ninja A-League champion Teresa Polias. What a weekend it was.
Fabulous weekend. Sydney got the 3 points, so I'm super happy.
Season finally underway, Teresa.
Underway, run to the finals.
17 weeks in, now we're finally here.
We are.
Yeah.
It was an absolute belter. No one can take away from that. We'll take a look at that in a moment. But your highlight of the weekend?
Look, I think that the way that the Western Sydney Wanderers are making their move, a lot of times you see a dead cat bounce at the bottom of the ladder, but it's just close enough that everyone can still believe. So put your springs and your cats away. Every team is still alive in this finals race.
Makes it very exciting. And one team that's doing a great job in the finals race at the moment is Adelaide United, who secured a very impressive away win on the weekend across the ditch against the Phoenix. And we are lucky today to be joined by the Adelaide shot stopper, Claudia Jenkins. Great to have your company.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it was a very impressive win away across the ditch, as we said, and now draws out your unbeaten streak to 10. That's pretty good.
It's not bad. I think we're all pretty stoked by that, and it's a hard slog going to New Zealand for a game. So I think we're pretty happy to get points on the road.
And Claudia, there were huge celebrations after Lucia Leon's first goal, and it seems like the vibes are really high amongst the group.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it was a absolute clanger goal. And, yeah, you can see how much it means to her and us as a team.
Yeah, and the team's now sitting third on the ladder with an outside chance to get the minor premiership. At this stage last season, you guys were down the bottom. Please tell us the secret. What's been the secret to this amazing turnaround?
I'm not sure. I mean, there's a bit of a nobody wants to be wooden spoon. So I think that was nobody wanted to repeat that again. And I just think that coming into this season, there's a bit more fuel in our tank to be like, we're not gonna repeat that. So, I mean, we've got some amazing recruits as well, and just the team's meshed really well. And I think we've got a lot of belief in us, which is nice.
I know that Central Coast is the next assignment, but you can't help but look ahead to 2 weeks' time. Melbourne City on their unbeaten run, Adelaide United, you get through the next game. It could be 2 massive unbeaten runs head-to-head. Can you dare to dream about finishing top of the league?
Oh, we're dreaming. I would really like to. I think we've got it all circled. I mean, every game's very important, but I think, we're excited to sort of, the last time we played them wasn't sort of our best performance. So I think we've got some, momentum going into this. And I think we'll really be trying to break that streak if it hasn't been broken, I guess.
Now, we've asked about sort of the vibes, but what about the football? Has Adrian Stenter's messaging changed over the course of the season as he's seen a bit of a proof of concept as to how your team plays?
I think this season we have sort of we have the depth in the players to be able to play such an attacking brand of football, which I think he really wanted. So it's very direct and it's very aggressive, and it's working for us, which is really, really good. But we've got some insane strikers just putting them away, which is nice.
Goals being scored at one end are very important, Claudia, but shot stopping them at the other end is also equally as important. Let's talk about your journey this season, because you spent the majority of last season behind Annalee Grove, but you've managed to step into the big show this year and hold your own really well.
Yeah, I mean, I think being a keeper, you're sort of just biding your time. You can spend so many seasons on the bench, which I have. I think having that college experience has really helped, because we were playing sort of 2 times a week, and you just live, breathe and do soccer. So I think the transition from that to sort of this is similar in the amount of time you're playing and the amount of training you're having. It's just sort of a step up of the quality. So I think I've got the reps in me. It's exciting. It's very exciting sort of getting to play so many games. I don't think I have played so many games in quite some time, but I'm having a great time.
Well, we spoke about the team daring to dream. What about you? Genuinely, how far away do you feel like you are from getting the phone call or the email to say, come into a Matildas camp?
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, it would be very, very cool to sort of represent at that level. But I think it's one game at a time and sort of just focus on the next thing and then the next thing after that. And I think cards fall into their place and you just got to keep working hard, I guess.
And on a fun note, Claudia, we hear the team gets free donuts when you keep a clean sheet. Is that true? Tell us about it.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Well, 6 times already this season then.
Yeah, I know. It's probably not good from our strength and conditioning side. But yeah, Mikhail will bring us in donuts when we win. So it's nice. It's a nice little tradition we have. Didn't get too many donuts last year. So it's been a nice transition into that. Yeah, I like it.
I want to stick with the fun stuff for a minute, Claudia, and take you back to round 12, where there was a moment with you and Papa Dinovar where you kept the ball and didn't give it back. Talk to me about the mind games there.
I think I'm just a bit stubborn. I don't want the striker to have the ball. They've just scored. They don't need more. And she sort of just really wanted it, and I didn't want to give it. And then, I mean, if you're not having fun in a game, what's the point?
I love the big smile, and I hope that you never lose the fun out of the game. Adelaide Reds shot stopper Claudia Jenkins, thanks so much for your time on Dub Zone today. We'll let you go. We know it's a day off, recovery, and a bit of uni for you, but thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, fun stuff there from Claudia Jenkins. I do want to switch this one because we've concentrated, of course, on Adelaide to Wellington right now. Earlier we were chatting about their chances for the finals. They're literally hanging on by a thread as they march toward the finals now, needing to win all their games at home, but they've dropped one and it's important points.
Yeah, really damaging loss, that one. We spoke about how they probably need to get maximum points from these home games, and yeah, they've let this one slip majorly here.
The goal came from a mistake. That was their avenue back into the game, though, to go in with a foothold in the match, and yet Adelaide created quite a few chances in the second half. Probably could have won the game by more than they did. Let's not forget that Carolina Villau saved a penalty as well from Fiona Wirtz. So, look, it was a pretty commanding performance by Adelaide. We know going to Wellington is tough, but Adelaide made it look pretty routine. And unfortunately for Wellington, I think it's reflective of their form. They have a cluster more points than some of the bottom teams that are finally getting it together. They're not. They're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Well, it's a good measure for Wellington, seeing them against the top side, and unfortunately didn't go as planned, and really concerning for them.
Yeah, and you probably would have ticked the box for that one, given that they'd won their last 5 at home. Let's stick with the winners, shall we? It was another week and another win for the Western Sydney Wanderers, this time away to Central Coast Mariners. It's their 3rd win in a row. What's changed?
I think what changed is that maybe the new coach, Jeff Abrahams, finally started to get the vibes up among the team. And the Mariners score here. And in the past, an M Husband team 1-0 up with just over 20 minutes to go, Teresa.
Game over. Yeah.
You would think this is where they lock down. I think the Mariners are running out of troops. Now, this is the equaliser. Brilliant technique from Price to score this goal, control it and finish. But I wanted to really press you both, especially you as a former defender, Amy. Is this goal the product of Central Coast dropping off in defence? This one definitely is, because it was due to a mistake. But I wanted to talk about the Silvestre equaliser, because the Caspers one is just the product of momentum that kept rolling through the game. But here, that's how many Mariners can stop this Silvestre pass. Is this Central Coast defending or the brilliance of Silvestre's through ball?
Well, it's both here, but you can see the defenders, both centre-backs are drawn out to the left there, where they're well numbered. They didn't need Nash to then go over. She needed to hold to her ground, and you saw Sarah Rowe outnumbered on the right there. But also, from Silvestre's point of view, masterclass in actually seeing that open up and threading that ball through.
Well, and seeing the overload sitting right on the edge of the box, because you're right, it was really all about structure across the back line, and that just comes from, 1, ball watching a little bit, and 2, not communicating. If you're on the other side of the pitch, just screaming at those players to get back where they should be.
Now, in fairness to the Central Coast, they've lost a lot of players. Taryn King, seemingly no estimated return from this ACL that's had her out for 13 months now. Ash Irwin lost to an ACL. No Bianca Galich. You take that seniority out of the team. Taylor Ray has been very capable plugging a gap at centre-back as a midfielder, but they're just running out of players.
They are, and it shows, and that's been the issue in recent weeks. And if you keep plugging sort of positions, especially centre back, you're going to be vulnerable.
Sylvester only came off the bench because of young Matildas. She scored a hat-trick in that third and final game just after we recorded last week. So in ripping form, but even off the bench, able to impact the contest. And, you know, after we spoke about Carly Johnson making the most of her minutes, best showing from Talia Capitanellis as well so far. Gets the assist for the match winner for Caspers. But I feel as though some of the kids that don't get much game time, they've seen what Carly Johnson did and they're saying, it's going to be me next.
Well, these are great examples. And, you know, Sylvester, for her to make that mature decision, a hard decision to go back to the Wanderers, it's absolutely paid off because she needed the minutes. She's a fantastic player and her being out there helps her apply that trade and get better and better, and she's worked wonders for her team on a national level as well.
Oh, isn't it fantastic to see young players plying their trade and growing week by week and hopefully creating champions of the future. Speaking of one of the champions of the Central Coast Mariners team, I want to concentrate on Izzy Gomez for just a minute. Took a long time in this game for the goals to get going. 68th minute, she scores the goal, but then she had to get subbed off with an injury concern.
And to her good knee. So this is a player who was in the Matildas, got injured in a tackle from Ellie Wilson from Melbourne Victory during Unite round, and we saw the heavily bandaged right knee, but Teresa, this concern was her left knee. And the Mariners actually played with 10 players for 2 or 3 minutes because it was their last substitution window and they had to they wanted to make a double change and bring on both their remaining subs. And Izzy Gomez was out of the game, sitting on the bench, but the concern is about her good knee now.
It's really concerning. You know, they've just got her back. She's a player that goes out in every game and exerts herself so much. She gives everything, and perhaps, you know, the body's overcompensating a little bit, and hopefully it's nothing too serious and they're just wrapping her in cotton wool to ensure she stays on the pitch for the next rounds.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed she's okay, but a couple of teams that have plenty to look forward to in their next clashes. Time to check in with What's Cooking Now with Nalin Mastou, brought to you by Ninja.
Hey everyone, I'm Nalin Mastou with What's Cooking on socials and in the world of women's football. Brought to you as always by the Ninja Woodfire Outdoor Oven, which can turn any space into an outdoor kitchen. Now, Western Sydney Wanderers midfielder Paige Hayward took to socials to announce she's having a little baby boy. The post was met with plenty of love from the football community, and of course we all wish her all the best on this very new exciting chapter in her life. Now it's time for your feel-good story for the week. Adelaide United shared a video of their American forward Erin Healy reunited with her family, and the reactions in this clip is absolutely priceless. She saw her loved ones for the first time in 8 months. They flew all the way from San Diego to Wellington to watch her play over the weekend. A special moment I'm sure Erin will always cherish. And finally, the A-Leagues and the PFA announced the continuation of the annual Pride celebrations earlier last week. The round will kick off from March 14th to the 30th across the Ninja A-League and Isuzu Ute A-League. The aim is to make football more accessible, inclusive and safe for everyone. Chloe Lagazzo spoke during the week about the significance of the Pride celebration.
Yeah, 2025 is an interesting year. I feel like everyone can be themselves and we're looking at it from a different lens. Everyone's able to express themselves in a certain way, feel free, but also have the courage to be able to be who they want to be. Football just allows it to segue to be able to do it, and it's just somehow been able to venture itself in that way organically. We've been able to bring the people who want to be around it because we've created this environment.
The announcement also got us thinking about the absolute banger Catherine Zimmerman scored against Adelaide United back in the Pride Cup of 2023. If this doesn't get you excited for what's to come, I have no idea what will. Now it's time to head back to your Dub Zone crew.
Well, thank you, Nalin. Great stuff from Chloe Lagazzo there. And let's hope to see more goals like that earlier one during the Pride Cup. Going to head to the Fortress in Canberra, McKellar Park, Melbourne City, Canberra United. It was a record on the line. It is Melbourne City now all-time undefeated record of 18 games.
Yeah, so it's a four-way tie, Teresa, and yet Melbourne City wouldn't have walked away feeling particularly good about the manner in which they secured this record, because they dropped 2 points on a weekend where Melbourne Victory grabbed a little bit of a gap back on them at the top.
Yeah, another costly error, back pass there, and Canberra got back into the game, so that's another couple points dropped there, although, they're still undefeated. I don't think they'd be happy with the manner in which they did it.
Speaking of goalkeepers, Sally James, I mean, that goal was not a great moment for her, but otherwise brilliant across the course of the day. So
Yes, she's had a great season, to be quite honest, Sally James. She's stepped up really well for Canberra, and it's good to see her in good form.
now we need to talk about how the equaliser happened, though, Teresa.
Yeah, we do. A horror back pass from Briley Henry, and City's defensive woes or defensive issues have been something that we've highlighted on the show week after week after week.
Yeah, and this is the point. I mean, as good as they're going and as, dominant they are at the top there's these moments which come finals time could really cost them. It's cost them a win again. In the finals game, though, you're talking extra time now. Anything can happen at this point, and then potentially penalties. So this is what we've talked about with City. As dominant as they are in the regular season, it's moments like this that can cost them when, it's a knockout game.
Well, Rebecca Stott was asked about this post-match, and this is what she had to say.
I think you can spin that in a positive way, that teams aren't really hurting us from playing through us. Yes, obviously we want to clean that up. I think it's just being able to constantly stay in the game and stay switched on. And I think by the end of the season, I think we can definitely clean that up. It's something in our control.
So Rebecca Stott, believing that Melbourne City can clean up those defensive errors, it's probably been a weakness of theirs all season. But I have to agree with Teresa. I do think it does cost them come finals time. But it's almost arrogant to assume that we can spin it in a positive way. Teams aren't really hurting us.
I don't even think it's spin. It's been 2 months since a team has scored against Melbourne City doing the following. Not a defensive or goalkeeping error, and the shot was taken from inside the penalty area. They've only conceded 5 goals this season that weren't direct mistakes of their own. Now, this is the last time it happened. If this looks like a long time ago, yeah, it's the first time they played Canberra. And only 3 times this season have we seen the opposition score with a shot from inside the penalty area that was the result of actually their build-up play. Alana Janchevsky in the first derby, and Michelle Heyman scores a double in that game. We've seen a couple of bangers, Mackenzie Hawkesby and Lucy Johnson for Sydney. That's it. Every other goal Melbourne City has conceded is self-inflicted. And it says to me that fine margins, they might be only a few degrees of improvement away from just not conceding again. I actually think Stoddy's kind of right. I think they're super close to potentially winning out the rest of the season if they can just make a few little tweaks.
But they haven't. You can spin it however you want. They haven't made any moves to change that kind of behaviour out there. They're still doing it. It's happened time and time again. So, come the end of the season, we're near the end. So I don't see them changing. I think they're going to stick to their guns.
It's still 6 games till finals. They've still got to juggle the Champions League. There's a cyclone that might have a say causing fixture congestion this weekend. We'll have to watch this space, and do keep an eye on the A-League socials and website for the fixtures coming up. But I really do think that they are super close to working it out. And as much as I may have previously argued that it would cost them a grand final, I actually think that Stoddy's right. It makes a very good point.
Well, I do just want to jump back in on Aideen Keen's goal and the celebration that she shared with her teammate Maya Markowski. We've been asking for these, and these two have said there's plenty more in the tank.
Yeah, well, they're great mates, and they've talked about the enjoyment in creating these. It's become a bit of a trademark, so every time Canberra score, it's, we want it to be them, one of those two, and see a good celebration like that.
This is the latest instalment.
Yeah, I'd love to play paintball against Aideen Keen, because look at the cell. It's fantastic how she absorbs that shot from Maya Markowski. On an actual serious note, Aideen Keen suffered a brutal ACL in 2022. It cost her a spot at the Under-20 World Cup, and her rehab is still going. It is heartwarming to see her score and to be having so much fun.
It is. It's great to see.
And we'll head to Ironbark Fields in Victoria, where it's always windy. Is it not always windy there? Western United taking on Melbourne Victory, and it was Victory that secured the points 2-1. No Alana Murphy after returning from national team duty, but they didn't need her. They had Holly Furphy.
Yeah, she stepped in and ball landed beautifully for Furphy to... Actually, it was a hard finish in that there were a lot of bodies to get through for the goal. So, yeah, big win for Victory here.
This is the additional player that I think could help Victory potentially win the championship at the end of the season. That's a really well-struck goal. There's a lot of bodies between Holly Furphy and the goal there. This equaliser, yeah, this is just Tarnit chaos.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen the Braga Stadium in Portugal, the one that was carved out of the side of a mountain, they need that. They need to import some massive rocks at both ends of the pitch and kind of enclose close the stadium. Yeah, but look, the equaliser, Alana Janchevsky lays off the assist, brilliant set-piece taker, and Kayla Morrison, who else would you want on the end of a corner?
Seriously, she's become a goal-scoring centre-back, just absolute. It's immense for her team, you know, when they need it. She's done it time and time again, so fantastic.
You want this, though. You want this from your centre-backs, especially on set pieces where they can come forward, they can use their height, they can use their stature and their drive to just connect with the ball and put it in the back of the net.
Yeah, not only is she, you know, so strong at the back and in keeping things organised, but come set pieces, she's a real threat against any team.
All right, well, let's hear from Kayla Morrison after she scored that goal.
Jeff, all he thinks about, sleeps, dreams about is defense, defense, defense. So rest defense, we could be, you know, taking a PK and Jeff screaming at me, rest defense. So that's all I think about. I always say it's like, yeah, it's just the DNA of our team. It's all about defense. You'd hate to be a striker here because we barely work on shooting. So, but to be a defender, it's great. And I think, you know, I've said it before, me and Bungie have made that chemistry throughout the years we've played together. So it doesn't really matter who's playing on the sides of us. We're ready to kind of teach them. And the girls we have on this team are ready to learn.
I love Kayla. Love every single time we do an interview with her. And interesting, though, that Jeff Hopkins' focus is on defence, winning games.
Well, a lot of, you know, philosophies are that, you know, a championship-winning team has the best defence, and Victory have been great this season, very organised.
We said this after the second Melbourne derby. They will never concede an equaliser the way they conceded in that game again. And I imagine that the reason Jeff Hopkins is focused on defence, they could be lifting the trophy and Jeff will still be angry about how they conceded that goal. So I think that it's interesting to see that Victory, you know, they don't have to be pretty, but they're winning. And again, they're getting closer to Melbourne City now at the top of the league.
A little bit more shooting practice. No one could say no to that, though, could they? And that does beg the question for Western United, because they've just lost one of their star strikers in Carly Johnson, heading overseas, still sitting fourth with results going their way below them. But what does this mean for their future?
Yeah, look, it does leave a huge void. Carly Johnson's been immense for that team, but I'm wondering how Kat Smith now reshuffles the team. Who steps into that 9 position now?
4th to 8th picked up 1 point this week, so Western United did get a huge favour in that only Canberra drawing really got any closer to them. So it's almost like that entire mid-table had the week off. They can't harbour ambitions of finishing in the top 3 anymore. But 4th place, hosting rights for an elimination final.
Yeah.
Tarneet, distinct home ground advantage. That's their target for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, I think that's completely realistic for them. And although they've had a bit of a yo-yo of a season, I still do think they're one of the most threatening teams out there.
Especially if the wind is blowing their way, right? Which it was. Sydney FC hosting the Roar at Leichhardt. And when they set up for this next moment, even the commentators thought it was a little bit of a stretch.
So you think it's optimistic to try and score from this range, and especially against the wind here.
Short Tobin will shoot. Nat Tobin! What a strike from Sydney FC's captain! Nat Tobin has produced something special here, and Sydney FC are back level.
She just made me look like an absolute fool, but what a great strike for Nat Tobin.
Yeah, a true captain's strike there from Nat Tobin to equalise. It was a banger, wasn't it?
Absolute belter there, and you know she's a special player for Sydney FC, and in these moments, captain's goal produced special moments, and that's exactly what they needed.
And you wouldn't have expected anything else from Knowles, would
Oh,
you?
Knowles, yeah, and I like how she acknowledged though the commentators cursed there.
And all the way from Western Sydney Wanderers, just that little bit of crosstown spite
Makes
as
it feel
well.
that much better.
Yeah, it was back and forth in this one until Shay Connors broke the deadlock, Teo.
This is what the A-League Women's is all about. Both teams came from behind to lead. The game was a seesawing contest. Mackenzie Hawkesby scores 3 and 3 to get it all going. This game, Sydney FC, I think, set themselves. We spoke about what their strategy would be for the remainder of the season from here. They did bring back a few of the senior faces, T.
Yeah.
They brought back Shay Connors onto the bench instead of Amber Luchtmeyer. And I just feel as though, you know, this little interlude from Brisbane here, it was like, wow, Sydney are actually going to do it again on a day that they had played up until this point, the hour mark. They'd been by far the better team, so it didn't really surprise me that they had another surge in them.
Well, could you say it's a finals run now, Teo? We're seeing bottom teams now taking points from the top teams, and it's all over the place. But mathematically, they can still make
I love that you're holding out hope.
I'm inclined to agree with Teresa here, because if the Roar and the Mariners and even to an extent Western United are hitting the wall, the issue for Brisbane here is, like, yes, it's an important game in isolation, but I'm kind of willing to give them a mulligan because they had Sean Fryer out for the rest of the season. Olivia Sakani goes down to what we suspect is a season-ending injury. Momo Hayashi coming back from injury, unused sub on the bench. No Tamika Yallop after international duty. No Evie Popadinova, regardless of whether you think she should be ahead of Morrison, Tan in the pecking order or not. No Leah Varley and no Chelsea Blissett. When you compare that, that's just not the Roar.
No,
this is a totally new team to the Roar that set the benchmark earlier in the season.
Yeah, we've said a lot about the Roar dropping down consistently.
Well, let me give you that stat, because they're clinging to fifth on the ladder, but they've only won one of their past 7 matches.
Yeah, and when you ring those names off, Teo, it has been a disruptive mid-season in particular. At the start of the season, they were ahead of everyone.
But I don't think it's so much a Raw problem as it's a personnel problem. Like,
yes,
they get a few of these players back. They'll be able to play the game style that they want. Momo was there as an unused sub on the bench, and we suspect that this was down to the strategy of chasing the game, and maybe not maybe they were down to the bare bones. I mean, we cut Perth a lot of slack for signing injury replacement players and then throwing them straight into the starting 11. That's exactly what Raw did this week with Amali Kinsella.
Yeah.
So the only difference is that Raw have got a few more points in the bank, and we have maybe been judging them to a bit of a higher standard because of the bar that was set back when they had Yallop and Fryer and Hayashi playing every week.
Yeah, I mean, the bar was set then, and that's why we are holding them to a high standard. But I think the approach that Alex Smith is making is to, protect the players that are coming back, because you don't want to lose them again, because they do have a little bit of a buffer, like you said, up there. But it is running low now. Teams are starting to catch up.
And that Nat Tobin goal is something that we can see over and over
Absolutely.
and over again. Let us hear from Nat Tobin now.
It's the least we could do. They show up week in, week out, especially considering the season we're having. Like, they could kind of turn their backs on us if they really wanted to, but they're such amazing fans. And I think I got quite emotional the other day after we lost 3-2 to Adelaide, because they were all there cheering for us no matter what. And, they don't, we've not been playing the best football this year either. So, they could kind of question it and be a bit more negative towards us than what they have been, but they've been so positive, and I'm just so grateful for them, and I know the whole team is as well. We've got a great club here and a great fan base.
Yeah, they do. The Cove in full voice at Leichhardt as well. Shall we move to Newcastle up the freeway, taking on Perth Glory? It was the start that Newcastle was asking for and picking up their first win since round 6.
Yeah, really rapid start, and Sophie Hoban's brace there. She's worked hard the whole season for her team and was the most deserving player of getting not just one but 2 in the back of the net.
Yeah, perfect way to set the tone. And Perth on the road, fairly warm afternoon. Newcastle here had an advantage that they were able to hold until the finish line, and we've spoken about their taking chances, and many of them have fallen to midfielders like Sophie Hoban through the course of the season, and this is reward for her hard work. Newcastle break a 10-game winless run. The question is, do we believe as much in them to go on a run now? Because they've got Sydney FC next. They've still got some winnable games between now and the end of the season, but they've mainly played most of the sides around them twice already. Wanderers twice, Wellington twice. So they're going to have to do it against the top teams.
But this is generally what happens at this stage in the season is teams at the bottom, there's no pressure. So they're taking points away from teams that are higher up. So it'll be a really interesting end to the season.
Well, some good news for Perth was youngster Ella Lincoln getting her first Ninja A-League goal. She was the Golden Boot winner over in the NPL in WA. Teo, what more do we know about her?
Well, she's a very pacey player and opportunistic, good mover. We saw her nearly score a maiden goal against Sydney FC some weeks ago. But I think the great thing about this is she's only the 3rd West Australian to actually score a goal this season. This Perth team is filled with players that have moved from interstate. So it's always nice for the hometown players, the ones that are evidence of what's coming through in the NPL. And if you can win the Golden Boot in that competition, you can score in the A-League. And she said in her post-match interview to Pakua Frimpong that she's hoping to build on it with the game time. But again, it's someone who, didn't get much game time and came on and made the most of it.
Yeah, and these are the types of signings that make me excited, local talent that, will help a team like Perth build some depth going into next season and start planning ahead ahead.
Well, they are out of the 8 as we take a look at the ladder, and plenty of work to do for Perth, Newcastle and Sydney. But up the top there, Melbourne City 4 points, that lead now 5 over the Melbourne Victory. Adelaide sitting in 3rd after picking up 3 points on the road against the Phoenix. Western United, Brisbane Roar, Central Coast Mariners, Canberra and maybe the Phoenix holding on by a thread, all fighting for the top 6.
Yeah, looks like to me that top 3 is pretty set, and then 4th, 5th, 6th are there for the taking, the way results are going at the moment.
The real issue is, can one of the bottom 4 beat the teams around them? Because I suspect the problem will be that even if one of them gets on a run, picks off a top team on the way, they're just as likely to drop points against one another.
Yes.
And I'm not sure one particularly strong team can emerge. And they might have left their run a little bit too late. But, you know, if Roar and Mariners keep stalling and the magic number is somewhere in the high 20s rather than 30 or 31, they can dare to dream.
Absolutely.
Well, plenty of interesting fixtures coming up this weekend. It all starts late on a Friday night with Perth Glory hosting Western United at the Sam Kerr Football Centre. Saturday afternoon from 4:30. What a great evening. Newcastle Jets and Sydney FC, battle of the cellar dwellers, but a chance for Sydney if they can pick up the points to jump off the bottom of the ladder. Adelaide United playing host to Central Coast Mariners. I feel red on this one for some reason. Sunday it kicks off at 2 p.m. over in New Zealand. Wellington Phoenix hosting the Western Sydney Wanderers. Can the Wanderers make it 4 on the trot? Or will that fortress over there be too much? Melbourne Victory, Canberra United. This has to be right up there in valuable points. And Brisbane Roar, can they bounce back against ladder leaders Melbourne City at 6:30 at Perry Park? They get a good crowd up there.
Well, we hope. Just, you know, with the Cyclone potentially, keep an eye on the A-League's website, keep an eye on the A-League's social media. Of course, there are some things bigger than football. Everyone in Brisbane, stay safe, and hopefully the weather patterns change and it misses the East Coast and it misses Queensland.
Well, plenty to play for, that is for sure. Weather abiding, of course. Let's now check in with Vince and Tommy and find out what's happening on Total A-Leagues.
Coming up on Total A-Leagues, we speak to young Socceroos coach Trevor Morgan after the under-20s made history. We also chat about the game of the season in Auckland and which A-League player you would want to take a penalty for you if your life depended on it. Tommy Orr joins me again. Tommy, your highlight of the week?
It's hard to go past the 4-4 draw, Auckland-Adelaide. What a game that was, so can't wait to dive into that.
Looking forward to it, Tommy. That's Total A-Leagues. Check it out every Wednesday on the A-Leagues YouTube channel and the website.
Well, thank you very much, Vince and Tommy. Plenty coming up in the A-League and plenty coming up in the Ninja A-League as well for round 18. What game are you most looking forward to, Teo?
Wanderers have never beaten Wellington. Wellington, this is their get-right game. If they don't win this one, we really have to think that it might be over.
And I'm looking forward to seeing if Canberra can win against Victory after a long while.
Well, there is plenty to play for, especially on the ladder as we approach finals, and I'm sure T is hoping Sydney can get themselves off the bottom of the ladder again. Thank you to Teresa, Polias and Teo Pellizzeri for their input as always, and thank you for your company here on the Dub Zone. Be tuned to 10 Play and Paramount Plus all weekend for all those games, and we will be back next week.